just seized everyone's imagination with floating fondue experience in a giant snow globe in Canary Wharf, beautifully dressed, beautifully lit. One of our team driving the boat for you, so it really is kind of, you can just relax and spend time with friends.
Like that, because I've met so many people that have started out in hospitality in various different positions from really ground level, from washing pots, making it all the way up to ops, GMs of, some of the most prestigious restaurants and groups around. And I think hospitality is one of the few industries that really allows a zero entry point really to almost anyone. Okay, so this is episode 2 of the London Food Network, and today I'm joined with Greg from the Barge East and Skuna. Welcome to the podcast, Greg. Really appreciate you making the time, and I look forward to having a chat with you today.
Thank you very much for having me, Sebastian. I'm joining you on board De Hoek, which is the home of our floating restaurant, Barge.
Nice. So I know we've briefly had a chat before about the kind of path that led you to this position here as managing director at the 2 venues, or businesses, should I say. Do you want to give the kind of listeners a quick overview of what it is that you started off with in life and how you've kind of got to where you're at now?
I mean, I suppose my hospitality journey started when I was 12 or 13. My parents told me to get a summer job if there's things I wanted to buy and pay for. So I was making very, very bad coffee in a local coffee shop in a little town in North Dorset called Shaftesbury. And then kind of ever since then, I've really been involved in hospitality in one form or another. I guess it really started to take shape when I was at university, fell into DJing and events promoting, then was lucky enough to get a break in a full-time in-house role at a live music venue in East London. And then have upscaled from bigger venues with more complex offerings. So, drink and live music to drink, live music and food. And then onto a wonderful venue that's still going in Balham in Southwest London called The Exhibit. So cinema, food, bar, really interesting events program that's still programmed there. Then on to Bar and Restaurant Group, so the breakfast group in Central London's. Interesting of lots of venues that are almost in competition with each other, but with different offerings. And that was my first role, managing different members of staff and really interacting and learning how you manage different personalities in hospitality. Certain GMs who are great to drop in on, others who love an email or a phone call. And that was a wonderful learning curve and a fab learning experience with Eric, the owner and still owner of the breakfast group as well. And I will always owe him a big debt of thanks for a lot that he taught me working with him. Then on to my first boaty business, Thames Rockets, number 1 on the river and still are, and they are a business that are very proud to be a benchmark and a business that I still admire in terms of the benchmarks they set and looking at how you can maximize as much of your offering into 10 out of 10s. Then on into the big scary world of contract catering, worked for CH & Co, the office and marketing for some hotels in the city. And then a very interesting opportunity arose at the O2 Arena with Levy, who were part of the Compass Group. And I spent 5 very happy and interesting years, because it was a bit of a sandwich with COVID in the middle there, working for Levy at the O2, but an amazing experience. And I never really took that role for granted. You can't help but pinch yourself walking into, I guess people our age, Sebastian will know it also as the Dome, but there's probably a huge number of people who watch this who only know it as the O2. I pinch myself every day walking into Tony Blair's big tent by the Thames. And then 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to come over to Barge East and Skuna boats as head of marketing and begin to build a team and a function here and work with Stuart and Rob, the co-founders of the business, who are the right type of hands-on operators. They're amazingly supportive to myself and the other team and allow me opportunities like this to speak with yourself, but also opportunities to train and grow and bring my own thoughts and ideas to the business as well.
Yeah, it's quite a comprehensive history you have. Great.
So sorry to anyone who's nodded off during that. I think I'm pushing 40, so
No, but do you know what? I think that's exactly what people need to hear, Greg, because especially this day and age, it's actually that variety in the workplace that I think will make individuals thrive. I think a lot of people tend to stay in the same positions for too long. And then you kind of unless you've got a very fertile business that's moving quickly and you're progressing within there nicely, great. I think it's very easy to get a little bit complacent, I guess. And, you're putting a lower ceiling on your career.
Yeah.
By being too static.
If you were to break my career down by role titles, the thread is marketing, events, and a bit of project management, but it's never a like for like title. And titles are titles. You break down what you need from people in the business, and you hope you find the right people to bring those skills, but also hopefully some additional skills. Or if you feel you can kind of ID some talent and train and grow someone as well, and give someone space to do that as well, I think is really important. That's why hospitality is great, because you can give people the space to grow and learn, but it throws up lots of good challenges as well, which helps you grow and find new strengths and depths that you might not have realized you have.
Yeah, I think hospitality is one of these industries. I mean, hospitality, food, I mean, drinks, so all of the entertainment in general, it brings out an enormous amount of people from all walks of life. That's the one thing I found is there's never been one day is the same in these kind of industries, and you get every type of personality disorder as well, and every kind of nutter and clever man and not, and I like that because I've met so many people that have started out in hospitality in various different positions from really ground level, from washing pots, making it all the way up to ops, GMs of, some of the most prestigious restaurants and groups around. And I think hospitality is one of the few industries that really allows a zero entry point really to almost anyone. Like you say, you can, and you're a prime example of someone that can literally just develop a full career in pretty much anything you want to, because in hospitality you can do anything. I mean, another podcast guest that I'm going to have, I just spoke to him before you. He was in hospitality and he's now an accountant specializing in accountancy for hospitality. And he was a chef, and I said I've never met a chef that was quite as astute with their numbers, so that's quite impressive. That he's
Shame
done.
the industry's lost in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's still very hands-on with restaurants and, well, food businesses, hospitality businesses. So yeah, it's nice. I like that. I like that in hospitality, that you can make yourself a career, and your work is always recognized, or at least it can be recognized. It's one of the few industries, again, where working hard and doing a good job does get you progression, and actually very quickly progression if you want it. So yeah. So no, I don't think it's boring at all, Greg. I think it's actually quite nice and refreshing, because I would encourage, especially coming into an age now where AI is going to come about, the kind of job market is changing so quickly, and the future is kind of bleak to a lot of people. I think the more diversity of skills someone has, the more secure the future is going to be. If you're someone that's only done a particular role most of their life, then you're going to struggle to have to, find different roles, especially later in life. Like you say, you get to a certain age group and all of a sudden then you're seen differently for different jobs. So to have a decent amount of experience under your belt is going to pretty much guarantee you some form of career for your rest of your working life.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm definitely a hospitality lifer. My wife and I occasionally chat of, would you ever look at going sideways? And I don't think I could for a long term. Because I think the challenges is that's the really fun bit. Like, this will be my fourth Christmas at Barge, and it's great to look at it and think, okay, how are we revamping and rejudging the Christmas offer this year? What new trends are there? Is there something that worked really well last year and we can reboot it and keep hold of that and build a new offering around that? I think that's a bit that I find really and still really exciting. Creating something new, because that's a great thing about food and drink as well. Of taste do change and evolve, and that keeps it fresh and fun and interesting for everyone else, and that keeps it fun and fresh and interesting for the whole team. We're not just reselling this staple plate of food over and over. We'll do it in a Barge East way, and we'll align it to our core values of an independent seasonal business. It's it's a good way to keep feeling invigorated. I don't think I could go into insurance marketing. Think about how we refresh the stock images and the collateral each summer. That's not going to present the same challenges as, someone's called in sick, or
Yeah, right.
down, or a delivery hasn't arrived and now we've got to flip the whole menu, and can we get a short run print on XYZ for service tonight? It's pinch moments, and it sometimes bumps the heart rate up, but it's kind of fun to feel alive from time to time and work with those little bumps. And also, as you said, the wins and the rewards, as cliche as it is, but for those who are watching and maybe aren't hospital lifers, it genuinely makes our day to read a good review that someone had an amazing experience.
Yeah, right.
Friends, family, a work occasion, it's so heartening, and it really, really is rewarding to read a positive review whether it's a member of staff or a dish or a small touch point that meant a lot. It's really wonderful.
And obviously, the experience you've gained across multiple different venues and positions must play a big part in your current role to be able to actually pick from all these kind of like, especially like the O2 Arena. I mean, that's been, I guess, quite a significant project since,
Yeah, and I
that's
was
changed a lot, right? It's reinvented itself
yeah,
completely now. When you
that
go
was
in there, it's mind blowing.
my role there was working for Levy, so the company have the contract to operate the food and beverage offering across all levels of guest experience inside the live music venue, working in partnership with AEG, who own and operate the venue. My role was to make sure what we were investing into refreshing customer facing spaces of all levels. So it could be your VIP suite, be down on general admission, you go and get beers and fries from, making sure the money was invested wisely, but also to improve guest experience. Could be faster service, could be, where do we put screens so you can see the menu? What do we invest in the back of house space to support that front facing offer? And it was really interesting. You had multiple projects running across literally different physical levels of the building at the same time, but it's a working, living, breathing venue, between probably even more now since I've left. It could be somewhere between 220 and 50 event days per year. You fold in that a lot of contractors don't want to work over a weekend. Trying to find windows to make that happen was an amazing challenge. It gave me some good, strong project manager chops and some interesting challenges. No project is truly finished. So certainly snagging is something that doesn't slip me by anymore, but there's always unexpected snags. Waking up one morning to a WhatsApp video of a pipes burst flooding down from a brand new little VIP area we'd had upgraded, and won't name which lounge it's in. It was all fine. It was put right. But, I've never had my stomach turn into a pretzel so quickly as seeing that the video of Zamboni driving around to clean it up, and the in-house plumbers have to go in and switch off the water. A pipe that was meant to be pressure tested failed. It's no one's fault, and having to go and speak to the client on our side and kind of understand what went wrong. That's a nice example. It's not a blame game. An error happened. It's no one's fault. How are we going to move past it? You take that and you file that away. Okay, let's double check anything that we're having some water work done on for future projects. So we don't have a Zamboni driving around
Yeah, well, that's the
mocking
thing. I
up
mean,
a
it's
couple
these
of hundred gallons of water.
It's those lessons that teach us the best lessons, unfortunately. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's like I say, I think the best lessons in life are learned the hard way. That's when the imprint really happens. And because of the pain of having gone through that, it really helps to program your mind to be much more diligent about future possibilities. So you're kind of always fine tuning a little bit your risk management, I guess,
Yeah,
predicting.
absolutely. It's easy for a marketer to sit here and market our role, but the longer you do marketing and promotion and kind of PR roles in house, the more you understand and learn. You've really got to work and walk in step with everyone. If you've got to understand your chef's or your bar manager's vision and work together, and you can bring them some insights of, well, this is what trends are telling us, and you can look at sales data and let them know that this here a dish you really like isn't working, but actually this one that you might have thought is a bit of a dog or kind of a sleeping giant or a question mark. Actually, it's really, really popular, and let's shuffle some things around. But it's teamwork, and I think that's what hospitality is like. We all do have to work together. There's no working in silos, no matter the scale of the business, and whether it's when I was at the O2 or Barge and Skuna, a kind of medium-sized business, to the really small businesses I was involved with at the start of my career. Where one of them is just me and two other people, and the exhibit was not much bigger than that. You do have to work together. You can't pull in different directions. It doesn't break the business apart, but it slows it down, and change doesn't happen. And that's kind of looping back to what I said. And that's actually the key to hospitality, is gently evolving and moving forward. And that was a great lesson I learned from Eric and the guys at the breakfast group. That's how you deal with the challenges. You've got to keep looking. How are we moving forward? How are we going to change the offer? Really boil it down. How do you stay relevant? But also then, by staying relevant, you're still offering an amazing experience to the guest, because it's the right experience at the right time of what that guest wants and what that need is.
Well, I guess, this is the other point I wanted to move on to, is exactly that, because hospitality at the moment it seems under a lot of pressure increasingly. It's almost like the number of active customers, if you like, are dwindling all the time because of the kind of cost of living crisis, the competition, especially in London, is incredible. I think I mentioned my partner, my wife, works in hospitality as well. So, I understand very well the pressures they're in, and the fight, like you say, to try and stand out, give the level of service that keeps people coming back, because of course the cost of acquisition to get a customer through the door is far greater than just trying to keep people coming through once they've come in and tested a product. So, what's working with you guys at the moment? What are you having to kind of change, and how are you kind of molding to the times we're in?
It's interesting because we've got two very similar businesses that are based around the unique activity on the water. The Barge is permanently moored, but it's an amazing, unique setting to dine on. Skuna is a leisure activity, very interactive, self-drive boat experience. And it's interesting to be looking at how both are operating in the last few years. Skuna is growing and getting stronger and stronger. You and I were chatting before the recording of a really interesting meeting with some new locations where hopefully we can begin to look at expanding the business. That as experiential business is going really well this year. It's an amazing experience for guests to share with friends and family, and that's a really strong sector at the moment in the UK, but also just globally. There's nothing wrong. I think it's shamed a bit of saying something's an Instagrammable moment. Scrub that. What you want is you want to do something unique with your friends and family and have a really special moment.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
nothing wrong with that, and we shouldn't sandbag people for wanting that. And I'll self-gong myself that as a marketeer for that business, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You want treasured memories with friends.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to, a memory is going to outlast any material possession that we have. And I think a lot of people learn that is that, yes, that's all good. I could buy myself X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, what's actually going to give me fulfillment? What are memories? No one lies on their deathbed and says, I wish I'd bought another Rolex or whatever it may be. It says the same things. I wish I'd had more family time, more experiences, friends, all these kind of things. So I think people are more astute to these things now. And I think experiences are a kind of growth market generally for hospitality. So yeah, I think you've got a very good time and a great product to kind of withstand the test of times at this point in time.
Yeah. And then conversely, Barge East, we're having a good year. Huge physical section of our business is outdoors. So last summer was
Good summer this.
challenging. Yeah. So in terms of the weather last year, challenging, but and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it later. We've got some good back office systems that help us stay really aware of the now and what's in front of us. And
Yeah.
once it's gone, you can't catch up in terms of understanding the P&L. You've got to be on it. But it's been interesting to see the movement of discretionary spend and where people are going. The restaurant has quietened down a little bit this year. The days that are busy and traditionally busy are still there, but some of our peak days have tailed off a little bit. But then the great summer combined with people maybe being a bit more savvy about what they're spending has seen the more casual part of our business, which is the outdoor street kitchen, as a really, really good summer. We flipped the kind of lunchtime offer on its head. Basically it was our foray into the meal deal market. It's gone really, really well. A self-clang, cheap as lunch in Hackney Wick. In terms of coming and dining in somewhere. But that's a trend across the market. I keep a close eye on a lot of trend reports, and it is sad to see, it's the industry emails, from Restaurant Mag and the like of that. It's either somewhere is opening or somewhere's closing. There aren't many stories about celebrating 5-6 years of a location floating around at the moment. So we're very proud. We'll be coming up to 6 or 7 years next year for Barge East and for Skuna. But it does seem like every week there's somewhere shutting down. But also the other side of Pizza Pilgrims, huge amount of equity's gone in from the German group, which is good for them. I'd say more power to the elbow, amazing business. I hope it doesn't change Pizza Pilgrims. I hope it just empowers them and lets them grow into a really amazing, British built, although obviously core Italian heritage to it in terms of where the guys were inspired. But it'd be amazing to see that grow into Europe. The Germans brought us doner kebab. I think it's only fair we give them Pizza Pilgrims back. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. We're all feeling the pinch, and I anyone watching and listening, I don't want that to sound like a poor us in the hospitality sector. We're trying to be competitive and match what you guys can afford to spend as customers, but also our costs.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's ultimately what it is, isn't it? This is the hidden side in hospitality that people just don't understand. How pre-COVID times, let's be honest, chefs, back of house staff were not treated in the best possible way, really, for the amount of work and what value they brought to the business. And post-COVID now, the problem has been, from my understanding, is that, of course, a lot of people change very much their priorities in life. Cost of maintaining, not only recruiting, but maintaining a good level of staff that operate, particularly with the kind of expectations you set in the higher kind of end, you need to pay for it. And that's considerable costs, food costs, logistics, rents, bills, everything's gone up enormously. So it's very, very difficult, to appeal to people to come out and spend that hard-earned money they've got little of at the moment and spend it on something. So I think the ones that do well are the ones that have something more to add than just a meal, So for example, for you guys to have the experience of being on a boat or the schooner boats, it's these kind of things that have leverage, if you like, over the choice that people are presented with for going out.
Yeah, and we're lucky that where we're moored is a spot one of our co-founders used to love to moor his houseboat.
All right.
So he's that red thread of the idea of the business can be traced back to pretty much where I'm sitting.
Nice.
He felt this would be an amazing location for food and beverage business, and then you follow the journey the boys took, and some of it physical, of the hoop being sailed over, but him or the boys creating and forging forward this idea and sailing a boat over and using reclaimed materials from the Olympic Park to build it, and then how we've expanded on site. But that USP is definitely something that's really helping us. But it's a fine line, because we're never going to be a striped jumper and garum or hearties restaurant. We want enjoy a unique setting, but actually we're going to give you an amazing hospitality experience. But for me, what I think of Barge is warm welcome. It'll feel relaxed service if we're not a uniformed establishment. Everyone's scrubbed up well, smart. You'll get a warm welcome, interesting seasonal food in a really, really quirky setting, and maybe with some wines and some ingredients that you might not have traditionally seen on a plate or tried before, but actually that you'll hopefully really, really love.
Well, look, you're obviously doing something right. Just looking now, you got 4.4 Google reviews, very good, out of 1,600. TripAdvisor 4.7 out of nearly 1,000.
We were, I think, when the boys, I can't take any credit for this, when the boys first founded, they were number one on TripAdvisor for 2 years.
Wow, so that's awesome, because TripAdvisor can be quite brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so talking about these kind of things. So tell me more about the whole viral thing that happened with the is it Igloo?
The Igloo boat. So Skuna, we're based in West India Key. So that's the northern portion of Canary Wharf, as a larger neighbourhood. So Skuna, we offer hot tub, barbecue boats, dock, sauna boat experience, and an igloo boat, which will be coming into its second summer or second winter even. So that is a domed boat. Basically, imagine a snow globe on the water is the best way to describe it. It's fairly untested, so we maybe didn't follow the 7 steps of products development, but sometimes you do just kind of trust your gut. And there's enough kind of out there of Londoners love a dome at Christmas, or love an igloo at Christmas. And we were approached to do a partnership with a fabricator of the domes. We'll try. It'll be interesting. It makes the barbecue boat weatherproof, and it'll help maybe raise some PR and some interest over the winter. And it was just like lighting a duck paper, just seized everyone's imagination of floating fondue experience in a giant snow globe in Canary Wharf, beautifully dressed, beautifully lit. One of our team driving the boat for you, so it really is kind of, you can just relax and spend time with friends. So we went from sort of a 3 or 4 week plan to our whole fleet, so all 10 boats being converted into igloos for the last Christmas, and we thought, maybe it'll die up around New Year's, and it ran and it ran and it ran. So our own content, I think, was sort of 4 or 5 million views in about 72 hours. Sort of standing in my kitchen at 5 a.m. replying to DMs and messages and comments, and just sort of trying to do our best to community manage it, because people had so many questions and queries about it, and it's revolutionized our business. It's opened more doors for us in terms of new locations and a whole new side of the business.
Well, and crossover as well, I guess, into Barge East.
Yeah, it's much more a hospitality experience, which again is something different in terms of coming back to what we talked about earlier. Who do we recruit for that role? Operators and facilitators of that experience at Skuna boats. We do food packages for our barbecue boats, but that's for you as the guest to enjoy cooking and be really actively involved in the food service of that your experience. Where this is presenting something, the fondue is ready to go. You've got to prep that, dress that, everyone loves a beautifully presented charcuterie board. So even just choosing that, there's a certain ceiling we had to hit to make sure it looked good. Jimmy's on the South Bank, which is fantastic. Jimmy did a lot of very inspirational to us. We did some secret shopping of what's good and what's bad, and you're definitely in the good. Yeah. So, and to get that done in a sprint, again, it came back to the recruitment of, we've got a fantastic general manager at Skuna. A huge shout out to Lorcan and Harry and the team they built very quickly last year, because normally we start to downscale and just run a smaller, leaner team over the winter, and it wasn't even doing a U-turn because it was building a team in the end that was bigger than what we might have had during a summer operation, because there were just so many more moving parts. But because we have the right people in with the right skills and the right experience, Norton's worked for some amazing experiences in the past, and again, as we're talking on, he's got that well be able to draw on to look at what the team needs, how to manage it, and draw on that experience and share those experiences with his managers, and then for those guys to share it with our junior team members as well.
Well, I mean, you've done a great job, and again, review-wise, 4.7 out of 1,000 reviews on Google. TripAdvisor, great reviews again, 4.9. Something's going well. I think it must be hard for you guys to keep that up, because quite frankly, I'm interested is how do you run, especially the food in these, presumably they go out and float and the food's there already.
Yeah, so it's all it's all guest led. I mean, the guests should probably give themselves a good review as well. So it's good planning from the guys when they set the business up. So we've got a proper central head office site, got a production kitchen on site for Barge East, but also for Skuna boats. Food packages, delivered, preps. They go down to site on Skuna. We've got a little kind of finishing prep kitchen on site. So fresher elements. The food packages are prepared there by a proper qualified member of staff, and then they go out kind of like somewhere between, like, I guess, somewhere between the really lovely packaging that Dishoom use and a Gusto Deliveroo package that goes out, little instruction card for guests of how long to cook things, what's in the bag, allergies menu. But yeah, it's doing it properly, from supply chain to goods coming into us, it all being packaged up properly and then going out with guests. And people love it. Someone loves being the skipper and driving.
Yeah,
someone
right.
loves putting on a chef's hat that we give them and being the grill master for the day. Commercially, we love it when guests buy food from us, but also we love seeing how excited people are to bring their own food and cook on the barbecue grills and really actually make it and tailor it to their experience of share their food passion and creativity with their friends and family. It's really, really wonderful. And how proud and excited people are to share that content on socials. Monday morning, I'll be having a good swipe and ferret through people's tag photos and
Right.
seeing amazing, beautiful food being cooked on our.
Well, it's free
barbecue boats.
advertising, essentially, isn't it? Really, because everyone's going to want to post about it, right? Everyone. That's
And,
free content's going on all the time.
We're lucky with the location of. There's lots of eyes on where we are. You can walk around most of Western New Quay and see people out in the water having a great time. There's a bridge that cuts straight across the middle, so you're nearly getting eyeball to eyeball with guests who are cooking on the boats or enjoying a hot tub experience or an igloo experience in the winter. But it's the reviews that do help drive the business forward. And they're usually fairly long in terms of what's gone well, and staff members are often name checked as well, which is great feedback for us. We'll let that member of staff know. We have a reward scheme for staff who do get name checks often as well. But we also do feedback forms that go out to guests as well. And as cliche as it is, we do take that really seriously in terms of, there's average scores we want to see on that. And, if food starts to dip a bit, we'll dig into those reviews, or what's dropped off, or if something's jumping up and we feel we haven't made a change, let's still follow that thread, because that data is still telling us something in terms of our customer touch point rating has jumped up. I wonder if we've got someone who's maybe doing more front of house shifts than they usually have done, and actually they're really upping that first touch point. Or do we have someone really slick on the bar and those drinks are getting prepped really quickly? Or did food dip? And, can we trace that back to, oh yeah, that was a day when a supplier let us down and we had to swap something out, or that caused a delay in prep and things maybe weren't done in our normal or following our normal SOP. So it's making sure we use big business thinking, even though we're in an SME size, because then we can deliver a really, really good product. And we hope that's what's going to put us in good stead for scaling the business as well. We've got good training manuals. We know what works in the business. We're open to feedback with the guests, and we know what to look for in the team that we're hiring as well. We feel we know what a good Skuna employee looks like. There's particular attributes or skills that we're looking for, because it's not an easy job either. You're out there in scorching heat in the summer, freezing cold in the
Yeah,
winter,
right.
and it's all outdoors. It's all weathers. You're dealing with guests who might be a little bit nervous. You're asking, most people are a novice boater in the UK, despite us being an island nation. I am an exception. Obviously, I've been around both the business. How many people can go in a room of 10 people? How many people have driven a boat? No one's putting their hand up. How many people have driven a boat where you also might need to cook dinner for up to 9 other people at the same time, um, under the gaze of Canary Wharf, and all that distraction? Having staff who can put people at ease and get them switched on to, this is going to be really, really fun, and you guys are going to have an absolute blast when you're out there, is so simple.
Well, that leads me on to the next point, actually. So obviously you guys have had to use a lot of kind of like systems and processes and reporting and data analysis in general to kind of like work out, like you said, fine tune what's working and what's not, and fix and repeat depending on what's going on. What do you use? Like, what's your kind of like, what kind of technologies have you adopted, if you like, to help you?
We're using Nori, so fantastic system, great Irish startup, and now well beyond a startup phase, Irish business based in Dublin, founded by someone who worked in the food sector, someone who's building it from the right knowledge point of view, rather than creating something that I think people in hospitality need this. There's too many businesses like that without getting in a hobby horse. Like, it's come from a real understanding of what hospitality needs. So overlays our labour in terms of planning, management, and projections, but also our P&L and the projections and forecasts of those plug in, plus our purchasing goes through that as well. So you're getting true cost of goods in there as well, and it overlays all of that. We're hoping for some weather analysis to fold in there as well, selfishly for us. That'd be great. And at the moment, we're going back through plugging in a lot of historical data, so we can begin to understand in an even deeper way of, okay, first week of July, with all our historic data, what's the true value that we might be able to expect there on a Monday to Friday for the business? Cool. That's what that is. That helps us decide, okay, we need this many people on ship to deliver that, and get that all plugged in and forecasted ahead of time as far as possible. And then exceptions to that of, event days change, West Ham match days change around Barge. There might be a gig at the same time at the Copperbox Arena, which is 5 minutes to walk away, and the London Stadium, which is a 10-minute walk away. That again, we'll make sure we factor in those, but it's a labour and forecasting. So it's putting in big cogs, and then we go in and tweak some of the small ones. But to have it all in one dashboard, it's just rationalised it, for the managers, the owners, and the operators of the business, and we've got it at Skuna as well. And it's been really, really good. There's less spreadsheets, which it's prone to a manual error, or it's not as robust and rigorous enough, and it's live. So exactly what's going on at that time, where we can make decisions.
Does it handle reservations and that kind of stuff?
Nothing like that. So
it's back end, basically.
That's,
it's more back end.
I'll throw that idea out there to someone. If someone can come up with the ultimate API tool to loop together all the different booking engines out there, there's money to be made. Someone who's maybe worked in hospitality and gone into tech, a bit like the guys at Nori, if you come up with that, you're going to retire at 55. Whoever comes up with that system to loop together OpenTable, Collins, Undo, Etor, the Fork, TripAdvisor, whoever comes up with that, bring all of that together is going to be limited. Kind of looping into that, we've got a few of those do work and plug in together. From my side, I'll keep an eye on cover numbers, average spend per head, and then take into account as the tube line down, match day, event day. And we'll try and keep an eye on booking latency as well, of how far ahead people are booking. I think the big difference we've noticed from 2025 to 24 is much shorter distance on when people are booking in. So last year, Sundays nice and full, sort of 2 weeks, 10 days out. This year, it's more like a week for 3 days that we still might have some spaces there. We'll end up being fully booked, but that distance, and I think that again is nervousness around, what people are willing to spend, organising friends, making plans, because again, everyone's a bit nervous around discretionary spend at the moment, and people's priorities change, unfortunately, because of that.
Yeah, well, and I guess with all these kind of systems, it sounds like this Nori system's amazing. I've not heard of it actually, but then I guess I'm not in restaurants per se. My wife talks a lot about the reservations side. 7 Rooms, I think she uses.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of work herself as well to try and kind of like optimize it and tailor make it to their business. I think there's a lot of widgets you can do and all kinds of stuff. I'm not too sure what the integrations are like with that.
we've played around with all sorts of different plugins and bits and bobs this year. Trying to rationalize both from a customer point of view. When you come to our website, that's your first touch point with us. I want that to be as smooth as possible, and you find the right part or place in Barge where you and your friend or family or colleague need to go. We use good kind of CMS plugin in our bookings inbox, which helps us manage and track bookings so that we get back to you as a guest in your inquiry in good time. And then we've got a couple of APIs into our core booking system. So we use Collins, which is part of the Design My Night suite, which is run by Access. But our sales funnel's wide, so we've got 3 or 4 other third-party listing sites which generate reservations for us. So you can't just put yourself in one marketplace, unfortunately. But then that brings in another commercial element of monitoring the costs of those. I'm not sure if general public know, but you book through Open Table. Once you've sat down, I'm already minus £5 on your table because I'm going to pay them because you've come. So again, it's just being careful that
Yeah, absolutely.
we try not to discount or work with discount websites, Groupon, or even just third-party websites where guest gets money off the booking. We need to be really careful that we're not
Stuff as well.
Not by doing promotions, we're not actually pushing ourselves down, or even just finishing flat. We need to be cautious about that. We'll have thresholds of having third-party covers when we let into the restaurant on certain nights. But yeah, it's a challenge at the moment to weigh up if we are on the correct platforms, because unfortunately it's a closed shop. We have conversations like X and Y, but you wouldn't know until you know when you move over. We think at the moment we're making the right choices, but like I said it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but tech is going to be the answer. So if someone comes up with a really slick API that plugs it all together, that's the sort of solution with an independent business like ourselves, where we are the only network to plug ourselves. You know what I mean? So trying to think about an example, not necessarily chains, but bigger brands where you've got more flex and you go to one website and here are all the different location options we have. That's an even bigger thing for someone to sell and more interesting. For us, we need to be on these different sales channels to make sure our sales funnel is as big as possible so that we're shouting as loud as possible to get our story out there and drive coverage.
And do you do much kind of like lead generation, or do you tend to focus on existing kind of customers, as in people that have already kind of entered your own system?
Yeah, it's interesting. So a lot more repeat business to our outdoor part of the business. The gardens is casual. It's a lovely space to be in the summer. We've got a good local neighbourhood here in Hackney Wick. We're a nice short walking distance from lots of people's homes and flats and apartments and houses. The restaurant is special occasion led, in part because we've got the Aber Arena is nearby. Saddle Frost Theatre's just opened. The new D&A Storehouse is nearby. As well as London Stadium, Copper Box Arena. There's a massive, fantastic plethora of events that happen on the Olympic Park. So that grows our data. But what we are at our core is we just want to be a really good quality neighbourhood restaurant. The part of London we live in is going through a big amount of change, and the amount of residents living here is growing as more and more residential housing is developed.
What about the corporate side? Do you guys do much on the corporate side, events?
Yeah, so summer events, we're a fantastic option because of our size and location. We're well connected. We can offer a fantastic summer barbecue, but done in a very high-end way in our gardens. It's a great leafy space for everyone to be, and it can accommodate 100 to 300 people comfortably. And it's a fun, unique setting, and it's a good talking point, I think, as well. In the last summer party, when it happened, we had that barbecue outdoors, and there's other tertiary activities that can plug into that. We've got partners nearby where we can set up an activity for them to do during the day before or after they visit us. And then Christmas time, obviously, we do pretty well. It's a little bit of repeat business in terms of what we have on our doorstep in Stratford. But there's always new business as well. We don't sort of aggressively chase via LinkedIn or anything like that. We're just trying to do good, smart re-engagement campaigns through email. So who booked last year, make sure they get first refusal to come back, as well as some targeted ads
And who does that? Do you guys have an actual sales team of some sort, or marketing team?
So we've got full service team in-house, and myself, to digital marketing manager, and a bookings manager. So we coordinate that and then obviously pick up different tasks. within that.
So I guess your sales are more geared towards kind of, I say reactive because they're ones that are coming in naturally to you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we get a good amount of inbound traffic, which we're lucky to. But because we're always working hard to grow our reach in terms of making sure we're getting press releases out when there's a change to the business, or is there a new listing website you can be on, or engaging with someone like say Square Meal, fantastic third party listing site and partner, making sure we're going into their Christmas mailers. And it's it's relationship building, and it's a learning experience as well. As we kind of talked about at the top of the call, Sebastian, of remembering what works and amending those plans, and kind of making sure you put a plan to bed at the end of a project so that you've got the bones of what worked when it comes to planning the next iteration of that. You pick that back up when you have your pre-planning meeting for what is Christmas 2026, 2027 look like? What were our successes? What was a miss? What are we going to do? What are we not going to do? And that's something, I've done, in every business I've worked in. And, it's what I think the longer you stay in hospitality, the more hopefully we learn. I would have done that at the arena, refurbing similar units, what went well that time, what didn't go so well, what supplier was really, really good, what do we need to avoid. In some of the live music events I would have programmed over the years, what bands kind of stunk up the place, or said they were going to sell X tickets and they didn't. Or is Brazilian jazz, is that I won a Thursday night in Shoreditch? It was in 2009. It's making sure you learn from the mistakes and not repeating, but I think a bit of accountability in there as well. If you do make an error, making sure you show that you understand why it went wrong. And that's the same for anything in hospitality. If someone leaves us a bad review, it's in a tactful way, having that conversation with a member of staff, or finding out what happened.
Yeah.
There's two sides to every
Well, very
story, but
important not to let it slide,
to
right? That's the important part.
yeah.
I think accountability is hugely important, and it goes from top level down, isn't it? If you guys at the top are not taking your own accountability for what you may have done wrong, then you can't expect anyone else to it. And it's kind of almost encouraging it as well. I've got to a point now where I'm like, fail fast. I keep hearing this phrase in the business world now about failing fast. And it makes sense because so many times we procrastinate about a lot of things and we don't act quick enough. But actually just getting on with it and acting on it, even if you're not ready, at least gives you a very quick indicator as if it's actually something that's worth spending the time to develop or not. So I'm kind of encouraging my team as much as possible to fail fast. If you have got ideas, if you want to make a change, just get on with it. So long as it's not going to affect the business in a huge way, don't wait for my approval. Just get on with it and tell me later.
And I think as well is obviously you need to not it's not wrapping people in cotton wool, but if someone's doing a good job letting them know. In our weekly sit down meeting with the teams, if there's a great review, it gets flagged. People get the props they deserve for doing a good job, because also that's the key bit. If someone's doing something right, let them know they're doing it right, so they keep doing it, and it becomes part of their norm.
Yeah, right.
And everyone, and maybe other team members learn from that person as well in terms of is it how they operate. Someone like the arena might be someone who's operating really well in their service triangle and smashing it, and their sales numbers are a little bit higher than everyone else's. Or in the restaurant with someone who's getting their points of service are really, really hot, and that's allowing them to upsell a little bit, or just get name checked in a nice way in a review. We love feeding that back to the team because it is important. As much as you and I are really passionate about hospitality, it's also a really hard game. We all have fairly culinary team at Barge. Everyone has a fairly balanced work-life balance here, and luckily we've got owners and operators who are really respectful of that and really supportive, but it's still tough. Working in a hot kitchen or on your feet for a busy weekend. Sunday is a non-stop day for us. That's a tough gig. And there's more to it than just the pat on the back, but it's so important to let people know that they're doing a really, really good job.
Really?
And looping back to what we said, hospo guests, if you're watching this, if you have a great time at a restaurant, leave a review. It genuinely means a lot. It helps promote our business.
Yeah, I'm very good at that, actually.
There's people like me who do the desk jobs in hospitality, screen grabbing that on Monday morning and DMing it to a manager and send this over to Sarah. She's absolutely smashed it this weekend. She's done a great job. Let her know she's an absolute hero. She made someone's birthday or anniversary or weekend really, really special.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. It's very difficult very easy to let these kind of things slip by, but actually the impact it has for very minimal effort is definitely worthwhile. Yeah, and I guess what advice would you share with other hospitality kind of operators? And what would you say is kind of what are the key points to take home from your time?
Training, just in training with your team. It'll help you have a really strong, stable core team. I think the kind of what you said about maybe it's not the failing fast, but it'll help people understand failures a little bit more, or give them the tools to avoid failure and plan better and execute better. And that compass a lot of in-house training opportunities that were available. We're really lucky with what Stuart and Rob are willing to offer us here in terms of opportunities to learn and grow within the business. I'm involved with a training course at the moment. I've already done something before earlier in my time in the business, and a couple of short things. They're really open to us guys. As a 2-day course, it can give me these skills to bring to the business, and I can share it with my team. So for owners and operators, like, look for those opportunities, but let your team know they can look for those opportunities and bring them to the table as well. I can't remember there's some crazy stat. There's 10 million managers in the UK, not just hospitality, and 9 million aren't trained. People have just grown in a role, and that not diminishing anyone's job. You're probably all doing a very good job, but there's no formal training structure around that. It's just been the promotion art. Whereas giving people space and time to have some formal training and some upskilling is so important. And I'm applying for a bit of A-level business studies here, but hitting that Maslow hierarchy of needs, people feel valued when you put value into them and give them the space to find more value and experience. And that really, really helps in a job, looping back to what we just talked about, which can be tough at times and can take the shine off it. But if you feel you're being invested in and values and growing in your role, I think that's so important.
And actually, one thing I didn't get enough of is bringing to light the kind of biggest challenges not only hospitality has, but just general challenges in business. I think they're shared across most industries, and I like to talk about these things because there are always solutions. But what are your biggest challenges at the moment as a business overall?
I mean, this is such an easy one for me to say, but we think there does need to be some sort of ministerial post for supporting the hospitality industry. We don't have a voice high enough up the food chain in central government. A lot of the times when we want to share good news or just engage is going to our local MP, which is fine, but there's no outpost. There's no one there putting our flag on the hill in Parliament. When these changes, and I understand why certain changes have happened to minimum wage and NI, because the country is in an extremely messy state at the moment. But those impacts have not been communicated clearly enough back up the chain for what it's going to do, and we're not supported. And cost of supply chain is out of control. Local government can be obstructed. Luckily, we've got a really good relationship with a lot of our core partners, but there is an issue that there are other locations and other businesses I've worked in where your third party partners are not commercially minded there, and they're just slowing things down dreadfully and actually costing you money or limiting the opportunity that you have to grow your business. So you don't ever want it to be slapdash. There's failing fast, and then there's making big mistakes.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't
absolutely.
ever want that to happen. But yeah, there's definitely a lack of commercial awareness in some partners that businesses are having to work with at the moment that's really, really slowing things down. And the great thing about hospitality is it's a very straightforward businesses to set up, which means employing people is very, very straightforward, because we talked about it on the start call. There's a role for everyone. There's, in terms of scale, experience, type of role, hands-on, hands-off,
Absolutely.
part-time, flexi-time, front of house, back of house. And then that cascades into growing supply chain and suppliers and third-party
Yeah,
partners.
absolutely. There's a whole industry, and I
The
don't think people appreciate just how much of this country, if not globally, or at least in the developed world, if you want to call it that depend on hospitality one way or another. It's a huge part. Food is one of the biggest parts, and we're very kind of heavy.
positive ripples that opening a food and beverage business on a high street can have is amazing. Offer for locals, it's employment, it's supply chain, it's somewhere nice to go with friends, it's talking point. It's just amazing,
Yeah, it's a
and it
community
needs
focused business as well.
it needs more backing and support, and they shouldn't be seen as a problem of noise, pollution. The local town where I live outside of London with my wife. I'm engaged with some local hospitality businesses there, and the problems they have from the county council. And it's people 2 towns away making decisions that they think is best for the town, and it's doing the opposite. It's the local high street. It's shrinking it.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not growing it, because it's just someone making a decision by email.
Just curious, actually, a bit off piste here, but I was looking at the LinkedIn for Barge East. You guys don't do too much, so your social media is more focused towards Instagram, I guess.
Yes, we're definitely a B2C business. We would just use LinkedIn really for it's where we would like celebrate staff or awards. So the sort of stuff that would drop in there would be getting nominated at the Staff Canteen Award last year. Hopefully, if we get our fourth AA Rosette Award next year, that's where we'd celebrate it. It's not at the moment a channel where we've really aggressively pursued B2B in terms of business. That opportunity probably is out there, but we've got a 3-person team in the marketing team, and it's about what's the best place to
Yeah, absolutely.
deploy resources. And partly because of our seasonality as well of the business, and I guess we're not. Well, it's a good thing is we're not a traditional hospitality offering in terms of where we define business, which then marks us out. But over the winter, we're looking for dining festive events, not big party events necessarily on site. But it's something where we love to champion our partners as well. So obviously there's content in there from our friends at Nori, our amazing friends at Nokla, who are, if I stood on top of the boat, I can see where we get our sustainable packaging from. They can walk it over to site. It's roasted just across the river. So yeah, it's more of a channel of the risk is virtue signaling, and we hope it isn't that. But it's just it's where we'll talk about the behind the scenes, interesting, longer format stories for the business.
Well, Greg, I think I'm out of questions on this. I think you've given a lot of food for thought. Really nice view on the kind of hospitality sector, and it's been really nice to see what your journey's been and where you're at now, and the kind of crossover between two very dissimilar businesses, between Barge East and Skuna, but at the same time, obviously complementing each other very well. And yeah, I wish you the very, very best in all of your kind of future endeavors. And
Thanks,
I'll have to
Sebastian.
be
Hopefully, I'm
looking.
a nice case study of what are we 2025 now. In 2000, I was making very very bad cappuccinos in a tiny coffee shop in North Dorset, and now I'm marketing director for a really really quirky business. If that's not
Absolutely.
what hospitality as an art is, I'm
Yeah,
not quite
so
sure.
it's like a perfect case study for hope, if you like, because too many young generations as well. They must be very lost right now as to what path to take, because the future does look very uncertain. There's a lot of changes going through now. Kids are being raised in a world that's been very, very different from the world we grew up in, and I think hospitality is an industry that will probably always be able to foster some form of career for anyone at any level at any time. It's not going to be for a long, long time before hospitality changes so fundamentally that it doesn't become a good entry point for people to
Yeah,
walk into.
yeah. I couldn't agree more, Sebastian. Order screens aren't going to replace everything in hospital. It's always going to need fun, quirky, interesting people. Any youngsters watching this, it's a really really rewarding world to work in and give it a go. You'll learn something about yourself and other people as well.
Brilliant. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you to it, Greg. I'm going to stop recording now.